Joined now by APTN's Jorge Barrera, who arrived on the ground at Standing Rock just before last night's clash. Jorge, you and the crew were pretty up close to the action last night. We're looking at the footage now from our camera operators that was shot last night. Describe what we're seeing and tell us what was it like to be in the middle of this dispute.
Well, when we got there, the sky was full of tear gas smoke, and the floodlights that the authorities had set up previously were reflecting off this tear gas. It was a sort of a surreal scene, and then there was these sparks flying out. It was probably sort of flash grenades, and they were shouting and yelling, and then we saw the streams of water that were being shot at some of the demonstrators who call themselves water protectors there. So as we moved in closer, you could start smelling the that tinge of the tear gas, and when we got there, things had sort of there was an ebb and flow to it. So we ended up getting there was a break, and we ended up getting pretty close, all the way to the front lines. And while we were there, it started up again. The tear gas flew, and then the water cannon started to go. And I was with our APTN video journalist, Damien Joseph, and we got engulfed by the tear gas. And I ended up going down on a bank on the north side of this creek, because we were on a bridge called the backwater bridge, and that's where most of the people were knotted in. So we got over the bridge, and I ended up having to take a beeline for the north bank to my left because of the tear gas. It was so hard to sort of hold your ground and to try to do stuff, because the tear gas would get in your eyes and they'd start stinging and it'd be hard to breathe. And what the authorities were doing, the police was doing, is that they would fire their water cannons at the water protectors, the demonstrators, and then at the same time they would lob tear gas canisters over them onto the bridge. And this is a sort of narrow bridge. It's a two-lane bridge that sort of narrows in. And so the people who were on the bridge were actually caught between tear gas and water cannons, and they were trying to get out, and they were trying to move people who got injured, because a lot of people got injured. There was dozens that were injured. You know, some claims are at 140 or some injured. You know, several people sent to the hospital in ambulances. But it was a chaotic scene. But at the same time, the water protectors, they had this whole chain working in terms of moving people out from the front lines who got injured, putting them in the back of pickup trucks, and driving them down to the camp. Now, this is the main camp. That it was just a few hundred meters away from where this was going on. You could actually see the glow and the tear gas from the camp, and so they were moving people down to the camp to a medic station there to be triaged. At the same time, they had people were making ramen soup noodles on the bridge, and there was a small bonfire as well where people were warming up. Now there's a hill to the left of the bridge going north towards the barricades, and there was people lined up on top of there, and people were flying drones over the scene to get sort of that aerial footage, and all while this is going on, tear gas is flying.
Yes,
flash grenades
quite a scene.
Definitely
a lot going on there. Now, what started this latest clash of events between the police and the water protectors? You reported that it started when water protectors towed away a burnt-out truck from the backwater bridge. Can you explain what that was about?
Okay, well, on October 27th, the police forces moved against a so-called the North Camp, which was on the same highway, the 1806, that runs by the main camp. And this camp was being used to launch rolling blockades to try to slow down construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline, which runs right by there. And so the authorities wanted to stop this, and so they moved in against the North Camp, and they pushed people back to the main camp. And so they ended up setting up a barricade like a few hundred meters from the main camp that they wanted to hold and keep people from going back. And so this is the scene. And at the barricade, there's these two big military trucks that were burnt out. They're sort of transport trucks they use to move stuff. They're called deuce and a halves. Anyways, they were burnt out, and they were left, two of them left at the barricade. So You know, without sort of any warning to anybody, but I guess they had it coordinated. A half-ton trunk went flying backwards in reverse to move to like set up to move the deuce and a half away from the bear because they wanted to move both of the trucks away. And so like 6 or 7 guys jumped out. This was like early in the evening. They got the chain around one of the trucks and they managed to haul it out. And as they were trying to get the second truck, they started getting warnings that they were going to be shot and all that stuff, and that's when the authorities opened up.
Yes, that Morton County Sheriff's Department did say they were using the water cannons to put out multiple fires. Is that what really happened?
You know what? There was no multiple fires. I mean, there was like the bomb fire on the bridge that people were like gathered around to get warm. And there was another fire to the right, on the north bank, but to the right of the barricade, where also people were just standing around getting warm. Nobody was setting fires. It wasn't like the riot. It looked chaotic because of the amount of force that was being exerted on the demonstrators there. But no, it wasn't because of fires. It was because these guys moved the truck in front of the barricade, and then that incited the authorities to open up on them, and they just launched everything they had on them. You know, like this was the first time they had used water cannons, and I mean this thing has been going on through the summer, and they've never used water cannons before, but they chose to use them when it got cold.
Now,
excuse me. And
tell us, what was the scene like as you left today?
Well, it had calmed down a lot. You know, they were basically, the people from the camp were cleaning up the debris that was left on the bridge. They were keeping people away from going back to the barricade. They actually set up their own barricade with some of the makeshift shields and tarps that they had used the night before. But there was, you know, nobody was there again. There was barely anybody there. The bridge was totally cleaned off. Like, we saw people, you know, picking up garbage, putting in garbage bags, putting in the back of a pickup truck to drive away. So it was pretty calm.
You're outside the sheriff's office right now. What's going on in there?
Yeah. Well, the Morton County Sheriff's Department, they held a Q&A session, but it was only for local media. We were sort of given, you know, we're sort of understood to know that we weren't really welcome. So that is happening behind us. I mean, the Morton County Sheriff's Department has really created, based on what I saw, a really alternate version of events of what happened. I mean, they're claiming that the people from the camp were trying to overrun the barricades. That's almost an impossibility because they have rows of concertina wire. Now, this is a wire with razors on them. You get close to it, you try to go through it, you're going to get sliced up. Like, there's no getting through that barricade. Plus, they have, you know, their armored personnel carriers in behind that. So they have concrete, they have the concertina wire, they have then they have concrete barricades, and then they have these armored personnel carriers, and, you know, and police just lined up way up the hill. And they also have the higher ground, so there's really no taking that barricade. There was no attempt to take it. They just moved those trucks to just say that they're just giving notice to them that, you know, this barricade is an irritant. I mean, it's hurting the people of Standing Rock because it adds them about 20 extra minutes for them to get to Bismarck, which is the main place to visit. If there's an emergency, longer way around. If, you know, for elders who need to go get supplies and food in Bismarck, it's just really being a hassle, and it's near, and they don't want, and the reason that the road is blocked is they say, well, because there was a fire from that October 27th situation that melted some of the asphalt. The Department of Transport, the State Department of Transportation says this bridge is unsafe, but we're too scared to go and inspect it. So they've just shut it down. But the reason that barricade is there is also to prevent people from accessing the ongoing construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Jorge, in the beginning you told us there are about 140 injuries. Do you have an update on that today?
No, we couldn't get a clear number today. We went down to the medic station. They didn't want to talk about it. We've been making some phone calls to find out exactly what the number was. I mean, there was numbers up to like 200 that were issued last night, but definitely there was dozens. I mean, we saw a constant stream of people being carried out from the front lines and driven out. It was just this constant chain of trucks moving back and forth from the camp to the bridge and back, carrying people. So, you know, a lot of people got overcome by the tear gas. You know, the hyperthermia was an issue. I mean, this water, the moment it hit you, it would freeze. I mean, it was freezing on the concertina wire. There was literally icicles hanging off of the edges of the razors.
All right.
So, you know, people did get hurt.
All right, Jorge Barrera, thank you very much for reporting to us live from Bismarck, North Dakota.
Thank you, Carol.